Ladies and gentlemen, welcome back to Gaming with me, Tony Mo, and we're here today to talk a little bit about Lawbreakers. The game just wrapped up its second closed beta. I've now had the good fortune of participating in the Alpha, Closed Beta 1, and Closed Beta 2, and it's been a wonderful experience to see how far Boss Key has brought the game. I remember very specifically playing the Alpha, thinking to myself, a lot of ideas that I really want to love here, and some that I kind of like, but they all kind of just feel like they're floating out in zero-G. Someone needs to pluck them out of the air, plug them into their appropriate places, and we might have something kind of special here. Jump forward to Closed Beta 1, which felt like such a short time, like a ridiculously short time. I know it was actually a pretty good chunk of time, but it felt like it was, 6 months later, and I'm playing Closed Beta 1, and I'm like, holy crap. This game, it has its own identity now. It's got music, it's got a theme, it's got personality. I understand where they're trying to go with the core gameplay concepts. I feel the skill-based experience. I get where they're going with all of that precision and aim and accuracy. I understand where I'm going to be tested as an individual. I understand the diversity I'm going to have, the variety I'm going to have as I play across the different classes. I get what they're doing with this. I get the zero-G. It's not a novelty. It makes sense to me now. That was Closed Beta 1. It was a big deal. If you want to check out my thoughts after Closed Beta 1, they're still very much relevant to what Lawbreakers is. I'll have that video pinned down in the comments section below. I talk a lot about the music, especially in Closed Beta 1, because it was the first time that really became a part of the Lawbreakers experience, or at least that I got to recognize it as a part of the Lawbreakers experience. And the music continues to be amazing. We've got some incredible names working with them on the music. Sitting in the menus in Lawbreakers is a good thing. Not that you want to spend all day matchmaking, but if I had to, I'd be okay with that because the tunes are always jamming and they get you hyped up for the match. That is just something I really want to reiterate because I think a lot of games recently, I think a lot of games in general don't often take music to heart, especially when we talk multiplayer only experiences. It's something that Overwatch does actually kind of well. I love jumping into a match and hearing the music for the different maps and the different areas that you visit in Overwatch multiplayer, and that's kind of what you get with Lawbreakers, right? You hear the different music for the Law or the Breaker side as you boot into a match. It gets you hyped up, it gets you ready to go. I also am reminded quite a bit of Doom. Doom was obviously a first-person shooter that really went all the way, making music a part of the experience. I like music, so when games do that, I like to go out of my way to let people know that they're doing it and they're doing it really well, so definitely needed to make mention of that once again. Now, the team at Boss Key also dropped a bit of a bomb yesterday, something I definitely need to talk about. The game is actually going to be releasing on the PC and the PlayStation 4 sometime this year. We don't have an exact release date. I'm thinking later in the year towards fall, but probably earlier, a little bit before all of the big AAA titles start to drop so they don't get caught up in that window of death. They are going to be at E3, and we also do have a price point on both PlayStation 4, where, by the way, the game is going to run at 60 FPS, regardless if you're running on the traditional PlayStation 4 or the Pro, and PC for $29.99. Now that is an outstandingly intelligent price point, and it just adds to what I already felt for the Boss Key team. They are a team that just gets things, they understand where they need to go with this project. I think they're very aware of the current landscape for the games industry as well as for first-person shooters. They understand what people want to pay for a multiplayer-only experience, and they're giving them the opportunity to pay like exactly that price. It really does give you a no-excuse price point. When you look at Lawbreakers, if you're even slightly interested in the game and you see it's $30 on Steam or wherever they decide to sell it or on your PlayStation 4, you're pretty much going to go pull the trigger. And you know what it also does for me? When I've got a friend who says Lawbreakers looks cool, I turn around and I say, check your inbox, dude. And I gift them a copy of Lawbreakers because it's $30. I can buy 2 copies of the game for the price of 1 game. That does a lot for sales, and I think that's going to do a lot for establishing that early player basis. That is going to be very important to Lawbreakers' long-term success. Let's talk, though, about the core gameplay experience that is on offer here in Lawbreakers, because the team at Boss Key they're stepping into a territory. They're trying to provide us with an experience within the first-person shooter genre that I think is currently lacking. That is the idea of skill-based, high-skill ceiling first-person shooters. The current FPS landscape has a lot of great first-person shooters, don't get me wrong. Overwatch is one that I love to death, and it shares those hero shooter elements that Lawbreakers is also making a part of its experience. But let me make it very clear, that's where the similarities between these two games end. They have hero shooter elements, they have objective-based game modes, that's about it. Lawbreakers is going to give you a very different experience than Overwatch. Overwatch is a game that uses accessibility through a low skill floor, so making sure that just about anyone can get into the game, play it with their friends, and have a good time. The higher end of Overwatch comes from playing it at a competitive level where team composition and coordination between the different heroes becomes far more important. That's where the real challenge for Overwatch is. It doesn't lie within the aiming and the shooting mechanics. Those are actually pretty clear-cut and not very challenging, not very difficult. Lawbreakers is on the other side of the coin. It is actually a game that is going to require teamwork and composition. I imagine down the road, people are going to get a better understanding for what heroes work here and what mixes they want to use personally, but it seems to have a little bit more freedom. There aren't as many hard counters. You know, there's the medic, which is obviously an important part of your team if you have one playing very well, but it seems a little bit more freeform. That's definitely something that I think is going to change as we move throughout more betas and push towards the game's full release. But outside of that, the core sort of learning curve, you know, the skill-based element of Lawbreakers comes from aiming and shooting, and doing that at such a high speed in an environment where precision is a must. You've got tight hitboxes, some characters are very small, everyone is moving around very quickly, and you're using more of your mouse pad than you probably use in any other first-person shooter. This is a game where you're using all of your X and all of your Y. You're not just going left and right with a little bit of up and down, you're going a lot of left and right with a lot of up and down. Because of those zero-G environments, players are populating more volume on the maps than they populate in just about any other first-person shooter on the market. That's another layer of difficulty that is baked into the Lawbreakers experience. Now, when we talk about high skill ceiling, skill-based shooters, right? We don't have too many of those, especially not games that focus on aim and precision. You know, we've got a lot of games that are a little bit more, they're a little bit more accessible in that environment, right? They don't really look to challenge the player again and again when it comes to shooting mechanics. We have some of those games in the market. Counter-Strike continues to be one of those games. You know, shooting and recoil control are a huge part of what make Counter-Strike special, enjoyable, and challenging for a lot of players. So Lawbreakers is looking to take some of that and put it into the experience. They want people to learn the characters, to deal with the hit scan and the projectile-based weapons, and they want them to really have to develop an understanding for how to use those things in fast-paced, zero-G environments to be successful. I like that. I like that a lot, and I think way too often we sit here and we try and tell ourselves that people don't want skill-based shooters. No, they don't want challenge, they don't want difficulty, they want Call of Duty, they want aim assist, blah, blah, blah. I don't think that's true at all. I think gamers each and every year get to the point where they want more challenging experiences. People aren't going out buying 20, 30 games every single year. Most people are buying 1 or 2 games. They want an experience that they can sit down, that they can really put some time into. They want to play a game like Lawbreakers for the next 2 years, and they want to develop themselves. They want to face challenge after challenge, difficulty after difficulty. Give people games like that, and they'll continue to play them again and again and again. And that difficulty doesn't always have to come down to just making things really hard in one area. It can come down to mastery across multiple areas, and that's something that Lawbreakers is definitely shooting for. So yes, we've got the core shooting mechanics. That is something you're going to have to get good at. You're going to have to spend time with it. It's going to challenge you. The other side of the coin, though, is all of the variety that you have across the different classes. So I can spend 3 months when Lawbreakers goes live just putting time into the gunslinger. I'm going to make that my class. I've got a friend. He's going to play Battle Medic all the time. You know, he's going to do his thing. Battle Medic is the character he's interested in. I'm going to run Gunslinger. 3 months of running the Gunslinger, I start to get close to mastery. I really feel like I know this character. I'm a dead shot. I know all the ins and outs. I've got lots of tricks up my sleeve that the developers didn't even intend. That's the sort of experience that you can start to build when you have the variety that a game like Lawbreakers is looking to have with those classes. Maybe I get tired of the Gunslinger. 5 months down the line, I'm like, all right, guys, you know what? It's time for me to go play the Titan, guys. I really have been looking at the Titan. I messed around a little bit. That is definitely that's the next class I want to learn. I want to go all in with Bombshell and Chronos. And then there you go. It's a whole nother learning experience. So Lawbreakers has a lot to offer in terms of challenging you as an individual and giving you a lot of content. That $30 is going to get you a game that is multiplayer only, where you keep playing the same group of modes across the same group of maps, but it's going to give you so much more outside of that in terms of personal challenge, personal perseverance, and the rewards that come from just learning a game like you used to do back in the day, like so many people have been doing over the last, 5-6 years now with everything that From Software has produced. I think people, we want to be challenged. We want games that give us thousands of hours of game time based purely on us having to deal with our own weaknesses, having to deal with our own failures. From Software has made that very clear. Binding of Isaac, you know, there's a slew of these other awesome little indie games and full-blown games that are just proving time and time again that people do like to be challenged. And I think most of us would rather pay $30 for a game that's gonna kick our ass each and every time we boot it up for the first like month than pay $60 or even pay $15 for a game that is just 30 hours of padding. So I think Lawbreakers is coming at a perfect time, and I think it's doing, again, a lot of other things like the hero shooter elements, you know, the injection of just a lot of personality, a lot of theme, making sure that the game looks tasty. That's one thing that I've really been talking a lot about with friends of mine who are looking at Lawbreakers, wondering what it is. And I keep saying to them, I was like, just look at Lawbreakers footage. Let me show you some Lawbreakers footage. Is that attractive to you? And the answer, like 99% of the time, is yes. Before they even know about the learning curve, the difficulty of the game, this is something that excites them. They watch people playing it, it looks frantic, it looks fun, it looks interesting, it sounds good. You know, they want to know, what is Lawbreakers? How can I play this? What's more of this? So I think that's one of the big things that the game has going for it, is that it looks tasty. People are interested in it before they even know that's going to present them with a fairly reasonable challenge when it comes to aim precision and all of those other pieces that make up the game's skill ceiling and learning curve. Now there's one big thing that I'm really stoked to see the Lawbreakers team doing, to see the team at Bosky doing, and that is there's no difficulty padding in Lawbreakers. Everything is made very clear right from the get-go. They went out of their way to make sure that even in closed beta 2, they had video tutorials, short, concise video tutorials in-game for every single class and for every single game mode. This is what I want to see. The challenge is already there. It's in the gameplay. You don't need to hide things. You don't need to force players to understand a hero by not giving them a general idea of how that hero works or how that Lawbreaker works or how that class works. You don't need to hide things within the game mode. You don't need to hide elements that could potentially lead them to very basic success. This is something that a lot of games in the past do. I think a great, challenging game always explains the core mechanics, the core elements to the player. This is something that From Software has done with all of their games. Dark Souls, even Bloodborne, all of those games make sure to at least introduce the players to the basic mechanics, and then they let them run wild. The rest is personal discovery. That's exactly what Boss Key has been doing with Lawbreakers. There's no hidden, like, oh, we hid this movement mechanic, so you gotta figure it out on your own. You know, there's no hidden bunny hopping or air strafing or slide hopping. Some people may like that, but I like knowing, here's the movement abilities for this character. I've got a shift, I can wall jump, I can slide. You know, everything is there. The developers tell you about those things in the video tutorials, and then you can run wild with it. You can come up with your own combinations. You can blast your way through 0G, firing over your shoulder while using the slide for the Wraith. You can rocket jump with the Titan, then rocket jump off a wall and propel yourself halfway across the map through 0G. All these things are presented to you. It's up to you to make the most out of them and to use them to be successful, to be the best player you can. I really appreciate that. That's something that I think Quake Champions is currently struggling a little bit with. They're hiding things like timers, and they're not, you know, even giving the most basic tutorial tooltip to let people know, hey, Mega Armor and Mega Health are important. If you want new players to get into your game, if you want to launch an original IP like Lawbreakers, you can't hide valuable gameplay mechanics and components from the player base. It doesn't actually add difficulty. It is simply padding, and it's going to turn a lot of people away from the experience. Now, there's one other big thing I want to talk about before we leave with Lawbreakers, and that is the fact that they're already going all in with a custom matchmaking system. This stuff is very important to me as someone who loves the idea of holding little tournaments on my stream or on my channel. Lawbreakers already saw its very first tourney. During the beta, a bunch of people used the brand new custom matchmaking system and they held a tournament. Lawbreakers had its very first tournament in its second closed beta. The tournament used the custom matchmaking, which has all of these tools. You can modify how many heroes you can have. Do you want to have this hero taken out? Do you want to take out this hero? You don't want any Titans. You don't want any Wraith. You want to have one class per team, per character, so you can't multiply or stack them. Do you want to limit the number of points to complete a match of overcharge or the timing? Like, there's so much in terms of customization already inside of the custom matchmaking. To me, that shows an early dedication to the competitive community, which is going to be very important to the game's long-term success after release. I'm not saying right now, oh, this is esports, this is going to go pro, but they already got a spectator mode in there. This is a game that is fun to watch. They're making sure that they give the community the tools. You know, for me, a game going esports, going competitive, you know, a game ending up in that position where a large amount of people want to play it in a tournament environment, you can't just like launch a game and say we're doing esports. No, you just have to give people the tool. It's very much the Field of Dreams mentality of if we build it, they will come. Lawbreakers, the team at Boss Key, they're building it, and I think a lot of people are going to come. I know I will be there. I'm really excited to see the game pushing to another platform with the PlayStation 4. Hopefully down the road we'll also get an Xbox One release. I understand they're focusing on 2 platforms right now. I think it's a smart move. Work on that, get those products out, make sure they're good to go. Again, $29.99 is going to be that price point, 60 FPS across both platforms. They're going to be at E3. No current playable betas are going on for the game right now. I'm hoping we'll hear very soon about the next closed beta. They take their time between betas, they look at the feedback, and they implement it into the game. That is something that has been very clear to me as we've jumped from Alpha to Beta 1 to Beta 2. So I'm looking forward to them continuing that trend. If you guys have any questions, any concerns, anything you'd like to ask me about Lawbreakers, if you had the opportunity to play the beta this weekend and you want to share some of your own thoughts on the game, I would love to hear them down in the comment section below. This is a game that we absolutely need to keep on our radar. It's already very exciting to play. It's incredibly fun. It is giving us that high skill ceiling, skill-based experience that I think so many of us are we're hungry for it. We're hungry for it. We just need someone to put it on the plate to make sure that it looks good, it tastes good, that it's composed well, that the ingredients are great, and this is going to be something that could be really successful when it launches down the line. Thank you guys so much for watching, and as always, remember to play smart, remember to play to challenge yourself, but most importantly, remember to play for fun.